Now a certain man was ill, Lazarus of Bethany, the village of Mary and her sister Martha. Mary was the one who anointed the Lord with perfume and wiped his feet with her hair. And her brother Lazarus was ill. So the sister sent a message to Jesus, saying, "Lord, he whom you love is ill."
My brother Lazarus was so sick. You could hear it when he breathed. You could see it in his eyes. He was a goner for sure. My sister Martha and I, we didn't know what to do. Then we thought, what about Jesus? He's been healing everyone else, so why not Lazarus, one of his best friends? So we found a neighbor who was willing to make the 2-day journey to where Jesus was staying, and then we prayed that Lazarus could just hold on.
But when Jesus heard the message, he said, "This illness does not lead to death. Rather, it is for God's glory, so that the Son of God may be glorified through it." Accordingly, though Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus, after having heard that Lazarus was ill, he stayed 2 days longer in the place where he was. Then, after this, he said to the disciples, "Let's go to Judea again." And the disciples said to him, "Rabbi, the officials there were just now trying to stone you, and are you going there again?" And Jesus answered, "Are there not 12 hours of daylight? Those who walk during the day do not stumble, because they see the light of this world. But those who walk at night stumble, because the light is not in them." After saying this, he told them, "Our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I'm going there to awaken him." And the disciples said, "Lord, if he has fallen asleep, he will be all right." Jesus, however, had been speaking about Lazarus' death, but they thought he was referring merely to sleep. Then Jesus told them plainly, "Lazarus is dead. For your sake, I'm glad I wasn't there. Now you may believe." But let us go to him. Thomas, who was called the twin, said to his fellow disciples, "Let us also go, that we may die with Jesus."
So there we are, in hiding far from Jerusalem, the 12 of us and our teacher, Jesus of Nazareth, had to flee Judea after our last visit to the capital. Jesus did some things that we thought were incredible, but let's just say that he did endear himself to the people in power there. Then this guy shows up and tells us that Jesus' good friend Lazarus is near death. And here's the strange part. He said Lazarus' sickness would actually lead to the Son of God being glorified. We didn't get that at all. Okay, so then 2 more days go by, and then Jesus said, "Let's go back to Judea because Lazarus has fallen asleep, and I'm going to wake him up." That worried us. Like I said, we weren't exactly popular with people in Judea, and if Lazarus is merely in a coma, then chances are that it would eventually pass. Then he made it clear. Lazarus is D-E-A-D, dead. Why didn't he just say that to begin with? Anyway, have you ever tried to get Jesus to change his mind? It don't happen. He's really stubborn, you know.
When Jesus arrived, he found that Lazarus had already been in the tomb for 4 days. Now Bethany was near Jerusalem, some 2 miles away, and many of the Jews had come to Martha and Mary to console them about their brother. When Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went and met him, while Mary stayed at home. Martha said to Jesus, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. But even now, I know that God will give you whatever you ask of God." And Jesus said to her, "Your brother will rise again." Martha said to him, "I know that he will rise again in the resurrection on the last day." And Jesus said to her, "I am the resurrection and the life. Those who believe in me, even though they die, will live. And everyone who lives and believes in me will never die. Do you believe this?" And she said to him, "Yes, Lord, I believe that you are the Messiah, the Son of God, the one coming into the world."
I was just furious with Jesus. How could he leave us hanging like that? We were like family. So I marched right out there to the road and I cut him off, and I stood there in the middle of the road and I told him just what I thought. "We loved you. Lazarus loved you. How could you leave us like that and not come back?" Well, I must have looked like a crazy woman waving my arms around and Jesus just standing there. People were staring. And then finally Jesus spoke. He told me that Lazarus would live again. And that didn't help because I knew that, but that's not until the final day when we're all resurrected. That doesn't help me with the pain right now. So I started in on him again. And now it was his turn to stop me in my tracks. "I am the resurrection and the life. Those who believe in me will live." Do you believe, Martha? It was like somebody had stuck a needle in a balloon. All of my anger and my fear and my sadness just went out of me. "Of course," I told them, "I believe you are the Messiah, the Son of God."
When Martha had said this, she went back and called her sister Mary and told her privately, "The teacher is here and is calling for you." And when Mary heard it, she got up quickly and went to him. Now Jesus had not yet come to the village, but was still at the place where Martha had met him. The mourners who were there in the house with Mary and Martha, consoling them, saw Mary get up quickly and go out. And they followed her because they thought she was going to the tomb to weep there. And when Mary came to where Jesus was and saw him, she knelt at his feet and said to him, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." When Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews who came with her also weeping, he was greatly disturbed in spirit and deeply moved. He said, "Where have you laid him?" And they said to him, "Lord, come and see." Jesus began to weep. So the Jews said, "See how he loved him?" But some of them said, "Could not he who opened the eyes of the blind man have kept this man from dying?"